Suddenly, we find ourselves now in a remote selling world. 100% of our sales calls have to be conducted virtually and online. We surveyed over 500 sellers, and here's what they told us about that situation. They said they're not happy. In fact, 71% said that you don't believe that selling online and virtually in a remote setting like this can be as impactful as when you're in person with a customer. Here are the three reasons you told us that you don't believe this can be effective. One is it lacks audience interaction. You were built for interacting with your prospects and customers. It's hard to build relationships and rapport over the web like this, and presentations can become too passive, and as a result, you're worried that people are going to multitask. In other words, you thrive on engagement, and you're concerned you will get none. So what do you need to do different? Like, what needs to change to maybe possibly improve those concerns? Well, 90% of the sellers understood that what needs to happen is you need a different style presentation. You need your slides and your interactions to be different. Well, you're right. Brain science says the same thing. When you study brain science of people in an in-person meeting versus those who are watching things online, it requires something vastly different to create the level of engagement you want for impact. Unfortunately, though, 75% of sellers are still using the exact same presentation slides and deck, and that's a problem. You know it should be different, you know it needs to be better, but possibly you don't know exactly why, or you don't know exactly what. So the world has changed, right? You're no longer in front of the room doing what you do best. You are now reduced to the size of a postage stamp and a little visual up in the corner like I am right now. And the hero of our story is now your slide presentation. It has to carry all the water. It has to do all the heavy lifting. And there are new needs and new requirements in order for it to be memorable, engaging, and convincing. First, you need to recognize that people only remember 10% of your message. And online, it gets even harder. The biggest problem is memory is random. You want people to focus on the 10% you want them to take away, not some random comment or message. So you need to clarify clearly and repeat your 10% message. Next, you have to understand that their attention and mind will wander, they will multitask. You have to specifically do things in your presentation to direct, to aim, to control their focus, kind of like I'm doing right now with this annotation. Third, you need to prime the brain. Science says that in order to get people's attention and then help them retain that information, you need to do something called priming. And there's very specific techniques that your slides must do in order to wake the brain up so that it will remember the most important things. There are three big ideas here and ultimately ways that you can engage more effectively for impact. But I can't teach you about that in a minute or two video. What you need to do is go get this free toolkit. This is the address for it online. You just find this link, click on it, and we'll give you three free things. One, an infographic that walks through in detail the presentation tips that I just introduced to you. Two, an ebook that takes you deeper into the brain science of how people remember your messages and your content. And a flyer that describes a skills training course on how to master remote selling so that you can be different in this environment, you can be memorable in this environment, and you can be more convincing. Go now and get this free toolkit and be a better remote seller starting tomorrow.